Dewey the Library Cat by Vicki, Myron with Bret, Witter. Chapter 27. The Library Lion. I realized Dewey was losing his hearing when he stopped responding to the word bath. For years, that word had sent him into a scamper. The staff would be talking, and someone would say, "I had to clean my bathtub last night." Bam! Dewey was gone. Every time. "This isn't about you, Dewey." But he wasn't listening. Say the word bath, or brush, or comb, or scissors, or doctor, or vet, and Dewey disappeared. Especially if Kay or I said them. When I was away on library business or out sick, Kay took care of Dewey. If he needed something, even comfort or love, and I wasn't around, he went to Kay. She may have been distant at first, but after all those years, she had become his second mother. The one who loved him but wouldn't tolerate his bad habits. If Kay and I were standing together and even thought the word water, Dewey ran. Then one day, someone said bath, and he didn't run. Interesting. I started to watch him more closely. Sure enough, he had stopped running away every time a truck rumbled by in the alley behind the library. The sound of the back door opening used to send him sprinting to sniff the incoming boxes. Now he wasn't moving at all. He wasn't jumping at sudden loud noises, and he wasn't coming as often when patrons called. That, however, might not have had much to do with hearing. Dewey was 17 years old, which is like being about 85 in human years. He still greeted everyone at the front door. He still searched out laps, but on his own terms. He had arthritis in his back left hip, and jostling him in the wrong place or picking him up the wrong way would cause him to limp away in pain. More and more in the late morning and afternoon, he sat at the circulation desk, where he was protected by staff. He was supremely confident in his beauty and popularity. He knew patrons would come to him. He looked like a lion surveying his kingdom. He even sat like a lion, with his paws crossed in front of him and his back legs tucked underneath, a model of dignity and grace. The staff started quietly suggesting that patrons be gentle with Dewey. Joy, especially, became very protective of him. She often brought her nieces and nephews to see Dewey, so she knew how rough people could be. "These days," she would tell the patrons, "Dewey prefers a gentle pet on the head." Even the elementary school children understood Dewey was an old man now, and they were sensitive to his needs. This was his second generation of Spencer children. Their parents were the children who had gotten to know Dewey when he was a kitten. Now they were all grown up, and they made sure their kids were well behaved. When the children touched him gently, Dewey would lie against their legs, or, if they were sitting on the floor, on their laps. But rough petting often drove him away. "That's all right, Dew," I'd reassure him. "Whatever you need." After years of trial and error, we had finally found our finicky cat an acceptable bed. It was small, with white fake fur sides and an electric warmer in the bottom. We kept it in front of the wall heater outside my office. Dewey loved nothing more than lounging in his bed with the heating pad turned all the way up. In the winter, when the wall heater was on, he would get so warm he had to throw himself over the side and roll around on the floor. His fur was so hot you couldn't even touch it. He would lie on his back for 10 minutes with all his legs spread to let the heat out. If a cat could pant, Dewey would have been panting. As soon as he was cool, he climbed back into his bed in front of the heater and started the process all over again. Heat wasn't Dewey's only indulgence. I may have been a sucker for Dewey's whims, but our assistant children's librarian, Donna, was spoiling him rotten. If Dewey didn't eat his food right away, she heated it in the microwave for him. If he still didn't eat it, she threw it out and opened another can. Donna didn't trust ordinary flavors. Why should Dewey eat gizzards and toes? Donna drove to Milford, 15 miles away, because a little store there sold exotic cat food. She bought duck. Dewey was fond of that for a week. She tried lamb, too, but nothing stuck for very long. Donna kept trying new flavor after new flavor and new can after new can. Despite our best efforts, though, Dewey was thinning down. So at his next checkup, Dr. Frank prescribed a series of medicines to fatten him up. That's right, you heard it. Dewey had a new vet. He had outlasted his old nemesis, Dr. Easterly, who had retired and donated his practice to a non-profit animal advocacy group. Along with his medicine, Dr. Frank gave me a pill shooter that, theoretically, shot the pills so far down Dewey's throat that he couldn't spit them out. But Dewey was smart. He took his pills so calmly, I thought, good, we made it. That was easy. He'd wait 5 minutes until I stopped watching him. Then he'd sneak behind a shelf somewhere and cough the pill back up. I found little white pills all over the library. I didn't force Dewey to take his medicine. He was 18 now, which meant about 90. If he didn't want medicine, he didn't have to take it. Instead, I bought him a container of yogurt and started giving him a lick every day. That opened the floodgates. Kay started giving him bites of cold cuts out of her sandwiches. Joy started sharing her ham sandwich. Pretty soon, Dewey was following her to the kitchen whenever he saw her walk through the door with a bag in her hand. One day, Sharon left a sandwich unwrapped on her desk. When she came back a minute later, the top slice of bread had been carefully turned over and placed to the side. The bottom slice of bread was sitting exactly where it had been, untouched. But all the meat was gone. After Thanksgiving 2005, we discovered Dewey loved turkey. So the staff began saving holiday scraps. We tried to freeze them, but he could always tell when the turkey wasn't fresh. Dewey never lost his keen sense of smell. That's one reason I scoffed when Sharon offered Dewey a bite of garlic chicken, her favorite lunch. I told her, no ways Dewey is going to eat garlic. It's too spicy. He ate every bite. Who was this cat? For 18 years, Dewey ate nothing but specific brands and flavors of cat food. Now he'd eat anything. I thought, if we can fatten Dewey up on human food, why not? Isn't that better than a pill? Bought him Braunschweiger, a cold loaf of sliced liver sausage many people around here consider a delicacy. Braunschweiger is about 80% pure fat. If anything would fatten Dewey up, it was Braunschweiger. He wouldn't touch it. What Dewey really wanted was Arby's beef and cheddar sandwiches. He gobbled them down, inhaled them. He didn't even chew the beef. He just sucked it in. I don't know what was in those sandwiches, but once he started on Arby's beef and cheddar, Dewey's digestion improved. His constipation decreased. He started eating 2 cans of cat food a day, and because the Arby's food was so salty, he was slurping down a full dish of water as well. He even started using the litter box on his own. But Dewey didn't have a couple of owners. He had hundreds, and most of them couldn't see the improvements. All they saw was the cat they loved getting thinner and thinner. Dewey never hesitated to play up his condition. He was a real trickster. He would sit on the circulation desk, and whenever someone approached to pet him, he would whine. They always fell for it. "What's the matter, Dewey?" He'd lead them towards his food dish. He'd look forlornly at the food, then back at them, and, with his big eyes full of sorrow, drop his head. "Vicki, Dewey's hungry. He has a can of food in the bowl. But he doesn't like it. That's his second flavor this morning. I threw the first can away an hour ago. But he's crying. Look at him. He just flopped down on the floor. We can't just give him cans of food all day. What about something else? He ate an Arby sandwich this morning. Look at him. He's so thin. You have to feed him more." "Don't worry. We're taking good care of him." "But he's so thin. Can't you give him something for me?" I could, except Dewey did the same thing yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. In fact, you're the 5th person he's hit with the starving cat routine today. Now, how was I going to tell a patron that? I always gave in, which of course just encouraged more bad behavior. I think Dewey enjoyed the taste of food more when he knew I didn't want to give it to him. Let's call it the taste of victory.